Hey chess fans, welcome to my second YouTube channel. Get ready to dive into the incredible game between Magnus and Hikaru Nakamura. At the Asian Cup Division event, Magnus, a strategic master and a Stockfish subscriber, displayed rich and tactical plans in this super game. Let's get started. Magnus started the game with knight f3, we have knight f6 c4 and d6. This is known as the Anglo-Indian defense. Hikaru has options such as the pirate defense, queen's knight variation, or he might opt for the double bishop fumetto. Popular choices include knight a6 and knight d7 in this line. I'm unsure what he's thinking. He could opt for any of these variations within the pirate defense, knight c3 g6 e4, bishop g6 and we have d5. The game transitioned into the normal variation of the king's Indian defense. We have castle bishop to e2 knight a6 castle and Hikaru strikes in the center with e5. Here some lower rated players tend to push the pawn, assuming it will enhance the structure. However, it actually creates an excellent outpost for the knight to attack the center pawn. a5 will effectively defend the position. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone feels loved and believes in the goodness in people. So we have bishop e3 knight moves to g4 to target the bishop, prompting the bishop to move to f5 and aim at the queen. Hikaru could play f6 then knight h6, queen d7 isn't good because it will passivate the bishop, so queen e8 to get active on this diagonal and f5 can be possible in the future. We have center exchanges and queen c1, position the bishop on this diagonal to prepare for h3, but Hikaru strikes the bishop first with h6. Bishop backs king h7, preparing the scenario to execute f5. Magnus played c5 to sacrifice the pawn. If you capture it then knight d5 will target the c pawn, queen ups h3 knight backs then we will recapture the e pawn. The two central knights can become crucial if your position isn't defended properly. One knight is pinned and allows the possibility of playing bishop to b4 in the game. So back to the position, Hikaru played c6 and Magnus takes knight, to inflict harm on the black queenside pawns. h3 knight backs rook d1 and after couple of moves later we have knight e8 to consider f5, queen c2 by Magnus to keeping eye on this diagonal. At this point the game took a complete turn when Hikaru made a bold move, f5, takes and if you take it with the bishop, then queen a4 will create pressure to the pawns, queen here rook d2 and we will develop our rook batteries, knight here queen h4, knight g5 check is an option if needed. Rook here knight e4 to play knight d6. a5 and after doing knight exchanges Magnus will create a pass pawn on d-file successfully, queen here rook c1 to target the pawn, knight g5 is a threat and after rook d8, white will employ a strong alpha 0-like move, rook to c5, aiming at the e-pawn. This effectively immobilizes black's pieces, leading to a devastating attack that could conclude black's game. Most of us must learn to love people and use things rather than loving things and using people, so back to the position, Hikaru takes it with the pawn, rook e1 to get the half-open file, initiating e5 wouldn't resolve the issue, as white can easily infiltrate the d5 square, causing significant damage to the kingside, so queen f7 rook d1 and after couple of moves later, we have knight to g3 to establish knight bonds on the kingside. It's an intriguing strategy by Magnus to stir up trouble in the weakened kingside, king h8 knight h4 to target the f5 pawn with 1 2 3 pieces, rook here bishop to d2 to re-rotate it on this important diagonal. Magnus is almost playing like an engine, but I don't know what happens with Magnus if he play with me. He is inferior 1000 rated player in front of me. Here best move for Hikaru is to play e4, so after bishop c4, I am showing you the alternative variation. Rook b8 f3, takes king to g8. Knight e5 to target the pieces so black has to capture the knight, takes knight dances and several moves later we will develop our rook position in alpha 0's style, queen d2 takes, white gets a pass pawn, king here knight f4 to target the bishop backs queen d4 to line up with the bishop, rook takes queen takes rook and that's it, simply reposition the knight to remove the bishop's influence, advance the passed pawn, and the game will be completely in your control. Another flaw in the human character is that everybody wants to build and nobody wants to do maintenance, so back to the position, Hikaru played f4, and Magnus gets the opportunity to play knight g6 check, king g8 and you cannot capture the rook too early because the knight is hanging, the f2 pawn will be in danger, the game will turn into a twist. So Magnus played knight h5, engaging the knights to create a nightmare scenario. Best move for black is to play bishop f5, let me show you the variation. White will sacrifice the queen by capturing the bishop as a tempo, takes knight fork, king here, and after doing big exchanges, bishop c3 will target to your center pawn, rook e8 rook d7, and that's it. You are gonna lose these pawns. Black has an unsafe king and black will encounter numerous challenges when defending the game. Nature never appeals to intelligence until habit and instinct are useless. There is no intelligence where there is no need of change. So back to the position, we have bishop h8, best move for white is to capture the bishop, because after takes rook takes pawn, bishop f5 queen c3, threatening a discover check, so king hides on g8, knight takes pawn rook d8, rook to e1 establishes a battery, while rook e7 poses a threat to access the 7th rank. The position will become nearly impossible, if the queen moves away. So rook d7 queen g3 check, knight blocks bishop c3 to x-raying the knight, knight e6 is coming to target the knight with rook support. Truly amazing, what people can get used to, as long as there are a few compensations. But in our actual game, Magnus played second best move knight takes f8, takes g4, here you shouldn't play any alternative move, like bishop takes pawn or knight f6, let me show you the variation what will happen if you capture the pawn, bishop c3 to get the diagonal, queen e6 queen h7 bishop g7, takes rook takes e5, queen backs queen check blocks, queen takes h6 to play queen d6 check, so bishop blocks on e6, rook g5 to pin the knight, queen here takes, and the queen is pinned. It will be checkmate in few moves. So back to the position, Hikaru takes the pawn, bishop takes check, king g8 knight takes pawn. So wish you all the best, thanks for watching, subscribe for more, bye bye, take care, see you soon.